If the gestational carrier is seriously injured, suffers a life-threatening illness during the second or third trimester, the gestational carrier agrees to stay on life support. So this is another super important part that nobody really talks about, and it's basically saying, let's say I get in a car accident. I'm severely injured. It's saying I agree to be on life support to secure the growth of the baby until a certain amount of weeks, and then they will perform, most likely, they will perform a C-section to get the baby out so the baby can still survive. And before I even got into contracts, I never thought about the fact of what if I died, or what if my intended parent dies. So that's really the purpose of this contract, to go into every little detail of possibility. The next part is assumption of risk, which is basically saying that we both understand that with all of this, there are risks. I could die, he could die, anything could happen. I can have miscarriages, I could not, get pregnant. So many things could happen. And it's just saying we agree, we understand that there's tons of things that could happen, and we're not going to blame each other if they do happen. Outside of getting pregnant by your own means. Yeah, so the last part I'm going to talk about in this video is life insurance. And I say that because there's a lot more I need to talk about, so I'm going to make a third part just to finish it up, because it's like still 3 pages worth. And so the next part is life insurance. The IP shall pay life insurance for the gestational carrier for family if the gestational carrier dies by any means. So that's just a protective thing for me. In case anything did happen to me, my family would still be secure and okay, because they take out a life insurance policy on me for this whole journey. I am going to do one more, and it's regular insurance. The gestational carrier will receive insurance payments through escrow and pay insurance each month in a timely manner. The intended parent puts money into the escrow account. So another thing I didn't know until it started happening was that your insurance policy that the intended parent buys for you, they can't personally just keep paying it through the escrow account. Like, they can't just set that up, because it's a third party. Insurance companies like for the main holder of the card to be the one that's paying for the policy. So I have to be the one to pay for it. So whenever I have a bill for my insurance, they set up in escrow, they set up an automatic pay date that they just send it out to me in the beginning of the month. So I have the whole month to pay that bill that's due at the end of the month. So that's how it is. And I just basically agree that I will pay in a timely manner, and that I won't not pay because if the policy is closed, it's even harder to get insurance, and it's very expensive. So yeah, super important that you're on top of that stuff. Medical insurance, and this one is different depending on if you're working or not. So I'm not working, so this was for me easy to get past. But this is talking about if you have insurance through your job, and some companies are different. So some agencies, even if you have insurance through your job, they want you to still have a covered insurance by the IP anyway. So they still want the intended parent to take out a policy just to make sure, like, if you lost your job, nothing happens that will cause you to not have a policy for the appointments and everything like that for surrogacy. And a lot of times, most insurances don't cover surrogacy anyway. So it just depends. So for this part, you really have to just go over making sure your policy goes for it, or making sure you have a backup, basically. The trust account. This is just agreeing that we consent that we'll use the escrow account as our middleman between receiving money and stuff like that, and for paying bills and stuff. So payment under the trust account. This talks about how much the IP has to fund the trust account at different points of the surrogacy process. So there's different points and different amounts that the IP has to pay when you get the first heartbeat, when you get legal clearance. There's a certain amount, because there's certain bills that will come and expenses that need to be paid after a certain point. So that's why they put that in your contract, so that there's no problems and you don't have to worry, okay, am I actually going to get paid, or are these bills actually going to be paid? There's automatically a comfort level there, because you'll know, okay, it's in the escrow account and they just have to basically expense it out to me. Also, what I really liked is it talks about how the escrow account will be open like 3 months to 6 months, depending on what happens. If it's a miscarriage or you actually, went through a pregnancy and gave birth, it'll be open for a little bit after the birth or miscarriage, because there's still bills that can be incurred, bills that, you might not have received yet, and they want to make sure that they'll still be paid and it won't just fall on you after everything's done. Next is entitlement of payment. And it basically says the disbursements to the gestational carrier for pain and suffering and inconveniences that's what all of the disbursements are for. That's why I'm entitled to the payments. It's not just because, oh, I'm giving you this baby, so pay me. Like I told you before, it's not that. It's not like an adoption. Independent legal counsel. The IP will pay for your lawyer if the gestational carrier feels that there is a conflict of interest with the fact that the IP is paying for the lawyer. She can get her own. So why this is important is because some gestational carriers don't like the fact that there is someone else paying for the lawyer. They think that the lawyer will be more so on the IP side because they know that they're the one basically paying them. So it just depends. It's giving you the option of you have a lawyer that's paid for if you want it through the IP, but if that is not what you want, you can, find your own lawyer and work through that as well. It's not just you only can use the IP's lawyer. So these are a few things that I really like that were in the contract. There's a post-birth contact. The IP agrees to let the gestational carrier / the gestational carrier's family meet with the IP and the child for a minimum of an hour after birth. I love that. I think that's so nice because, one, it's not as if I look at the baby as mine, and I would never, but I like the fact that at least I can meet the person that I've been holding all this time for my intended parent, and I get to see their bond together, and I get to, meet and talk and everything. It's just nice, It's just a nice ending, I feel like, rather than just giving birth and not seeing the IP or the baby, and that's it. I'd rather at least say goodbye. I feel like, we went through this journey together. It's not like you're just going through it alone. The next part was postpartum contact. I really like this for people if they do end up having postpartum depression, or, some people, they do kind of struggle with the baby leaving and stuff afterwards. So this is just nice to help cope, I guess. And it's basically saying the IP will reach out and do updates with the gestational carrier when the child is 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months. And that could just be pictures, little things like that. I know I've seen tons of people say it. That just makes them happy. Wow, I can't believe I helped do that. It's like a nice recognition to know, wow, this baby's growing and it's strong, It's amazing to even think that you can have a baby for someone else. And it's just nice to think, okay, yeah, after all that, this baby's healthy, strong, and this family's happy and still growing and everything. It also talks about how the gestational carrier agrees to not seek contact with the child after they leave from the hospital, which I do 100% respect. It's not your place at that point. You've done everything you said you would do in the contract and for the intended parent, and that's it. I do like that they still will give you pictures and updates sometimes, depending on how close you get, even more, but I do not think that there's any reason that gestational carrier should constantly seek the child, because that's not her child, Okay, duty to finalize parental rights. The duty after birth as the gestational carrier is to help by any means your intended parent go home with the child. This means signing any forms and consenting to any documents needed. So, because he's from China, there's sometimes more paperwork that needs to be done in order to finalize that this is not my child and that this is his child. And I'm just agreeing that I will help out 100% to make sure he goes home with that baby and that baby's his, and I have no rights. determination of paternity and maternity. The intended parent can request prior to and after birth for a DNA test to prove the baby is his, which, I mean, honestly, I can respect. I would want to know, even prior to I get it, I'd want to know this is my baby and you're not just carrying your own baby, and get this scary surprise at birth, The duties of perpetuity. Each party has a duty to let each other know if any changes have been made, such as loss of job, insurance coverage, and exposure to illness. This is just, like I said, another way of respect. Like letting the partner, we're partners basically in this journey. So letting your partner know if anything has changed that will cause an effect to one another. I like that. Privacy is exactly what it means. Giving each other the privacy you deserve. And basically, also what I'm about to go into next, confidentiality. Just respecting the fact that all this stuff is personal. Like, I can talk about my intended parent, of course, but I'm never going to give out information of who he is and, like, him personally, because that's his business. Just like I would hope he didn't do the same thing. That's my business. It's just a respect. And it also talks about if there's any reason that arises in this agreement that causes us to have to go to court, that we shall both take responsibility to find out a way to handle this confidentially. So there's not like everybody's business is out there in the court. Termination of agreement. The doctor or each party can end agreement prior to transfer. So, for instance, with my agency specifically, you can honestly end this agreement at any point, even as you're walking into the transfer facility. If at that moment you decide, no, I don't want to do this, you could do it. You have full right to do that. And I like that my lawyer explained that as well. You have full rights to leave up until that point that baby's transferred inside of you. And he has full right to also say, I don't want to do this anymore. I would like someone else at any point. The doctor, of course, has the same right. So if he feels that I'm not in good health or that this isn't something that I should be doing at all because of the medication affecting me a certain way, he has full-on right to end our agreement as well. Misrepresentation. All parties agree everything they have said in representation of themselves is true. So we're agreeing that everything we've told in this contract is to the best of our ability true. To the best of our knowledge true. Material breach. If either party does not do what they agree upon during this agreement, it is considered a material breach. Trust administrator's obligations. What your escrow will do with the remaining funds in the account if you receive. Okay, so what this is basically saying is if something happens, I can't really think of a circumstance right now, but it's okay. So if I did have a miscarriage, or and he wanted to stop at that point, this is also dealing with what the escrow account will basically give out to me, what funds they will push out of the account. They're the ones who deal with that basically in that circumstance. They'll deal with what remaining funds go to me or the bills, and what remaining funds go back to the intended parent. A breach, and that's what I talked about before also. If the gestational carrier becomes pregnant by her own means, that's one of the biggest incurable breaches that there is in this contract. Just basically the payment schedule and all that stuff, and things I think you should just think about before you get it, so you're prepared and you make sure what you want in here is what you have in your contract. So the first page is just talking about how much monthly you're going to receive once you're actually pregnant and receive a heartbeat, confirmation of heartbeat, and it's telling you what month it will start and stuff like that. Then I'll go into insurance, and it's going to tell you how much is the insurance policy that they're taking out for you, which I told you most companies make you take one out regardless of if you already have a insurance that covers surrogacy. Then it talks about general information, and it's basically saying that this is for pain and suffering, like the contract. And then it says the expenses during pregnancy. So there is a monthly expense that they give you, most companies give you, and it could be any amount. I'm not going to say mine because it could literally be any amount, depends on the person. And they give you this to take care of your phone bill, making sure you get to appointments and stuff like that. Then you get money back depending on if you have to travel to your appointments, if it's past a certain mileage, and when you're on your way to appointments and such. Medications, they take care of all of that, and co-pays for that if there is some. Then there's the transfer. So for the transfer, you get a certain amount for the transfer once you actually do it. And then you get, for the actual transfer when you go out of state, if you are going out of state, they take care of all of that. They take care of the hotel, they take care of the food, they take care of the driving. So with most companies though, they first have you pay for it when it comes to like driving to an appointment or driving to the hotel. They want you to pay for it first, and then they reimburse you right away through the escrow account. So that's what I do, and it's really fast and easy, and I've had no issues whatsoever. Then you have a Med Start fee that it again could vary, but that's another fee that you are able to receive. There's a mock cycle. This is what I was talking about my prior video. There's a mock cycle fee that you do. There's a canceled and a drop cycle. So for instance, there's some women who get a canceled cycle because they messed up their meds, or there's some women who get it because there's fluid in their lining and little things like that that the reproductive endocrinologist doesn't see as a good fit for a transfer. So you would have a dropped cycle, but if it's your fault, it does say in there, if you're the one and the reason why you're having a drop cycle, you're not going to receive a fee. But if it was something like out of your control, like you just have fluid in your lining, then you would receive a fee for that. For the mock cycle, yeah, I told you there's a fee. Maternity clothes is a fee, and for most of these things, it tells you the week connected to when you would actually be receiving it, and if it's in installments or not. So for invasive procedures, this is something you really, really, really need to think about, and a lot of people choose different amounts for this, and they can go back and forth. And it's very important to remember, like I told you, the worst thing that can happen with changing something in your contract is them denying it. So there's nothing wrong with wanting more and feeling as if you deserve more for certain things. So the type of invasive procedures are amniocentesis, chronic villus sampling, what else is there? Selective reduction, abortion termination, ectopic pregnancy, and DNC, DNE, and then there's the really bad invasive where you could lose your fallopian tubes, or you can lose your entire uterus. There are some cases where things like that happen after they gave birth. So that's all in here. And then they have an amount for C-section, and then they have an amount for multiple pregnancies. So for multiple pregnancies, most of the time it's in installments after a certain amount of weeks when they get the heartbeat of the second child. Loss of an organ, that's what I was talking about, where they give you an amount for that. Then they have a housekeeping fee and a child care assistance. So when you go out of state for your transfer, you can have the child care assistance, and there's a certain amount they give you for that depending on the amount of days. And even when you're in your pregnancy in the late stages, if you need a housekeeper, they give you money for that. I think they just want a receipt. Most of the time they just want a receipt, or they want you to pay for it, and they'll what is it called? I just forgot the word. Oh my god. Reimburse you right away. The child care, if you are on bed rest for a certain amount of time for whatever reason, there's child care that they will allow you to have. What else? So for the transfer, I really do recommend medical screening, not so much. I think you could go do that alone. It's not a big deal. But for transfer, if you really want someone there, you should make sure it's in your contract that the person you go with also is paid for their bags and the food allowance for them as well. I do think that's really, really important, because I think anyone can react differently, especially if you transfer more than one embryo. You never know how you react, and no one really wants to go through that alone if they start having a bad reaction, get really sick or nauseous and everything after transfer. What else? It talks about lost wages if you have a job and you have to stop working. And it talks about counseling if you need a counselor. I love that they have this in here. Like if you suffer from anything emotionally during the pregnancy, you know, all those hormones and everything, there's a certain allowance towards a counselor and how many times you can see them. Long distance calls. This is another thing that I really like that they put in here, and I really wanted to do from the get-go anyway, which is breast milk. So in my contract, it says that I'm willing to do a certain amount, for a certain amount of time, I'm willing to give breast milk for the child. And this is pumping. This is not actually feeding the baby, but I'm willing to pump for my intended parent, because he's going to be here a little bit after the birth, and give him the milk to make sure the baby has the best milk possible. I think that's so amazing, because I did that with my son, and I did it for about 8-9 months, and I think it's really important for their development to get that natural milk, you know. And what else? Also, what I thought was crazy that's in here is a cord blood and a cord tissue, and it's talking about when you give birth, you also have to push out the placenta. So it's basically saying that you can, if the intended parent wants it, because some people make it into pills, and it's really good for it's really good to have, because it's so many nutrients in it, and I would usually take it. It's basically saying, to the best of my ability, I'm going to bring everything I can to sustain that placenta and take the cord and everything for the IP. And I was okay with that. I like that it was in there. I kept my placenta. I still have it in the freezer. So I think it's awesome that that's even in there. There's another part that says psychological support, but that's also like with the same thing with the counselor, but this is more so for after a termination or a miscarriage or something. I could also see a counselor, well, a psychologist or whatever, to deal with that if I took it bad and, you know, I was depressed or anything. Then they have the health insurance, how much that is, and this is one of my other favorite parts. They have a gym fee in here. So, like, think about this. I want to do this, but I want to keep my body right enough so when I come back, I'm not looking like a pumpkin. So I love that they have this option in here that I can go to the gym, and there's a certain amount that I can have so that I can keep myself healthy during this whole process. And it's not just me letting myself go, basically, because I'm pregnant again. And that was really my whole intention anyway. I know when I was pregnant, I was doing great in the beginning, and at the end I just was like, no, I'm good. I'm just going to not try. But this, I want to make this pregnancy, I want to make sure I eat great, take care of my body, drink tons of water. So I just thought that was a really nice extra thing they added to it. So that's all I have for my contract. I really, really, really hope it helped you in some ways. I'm sorry for all the stuttering on some parts. It was a lot to read, and this light is super, super bright. Like, you don't know, but this light is bright. But thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye.